augmented reality, now in 3D. I'm Tonya Hall for ZDNet at Tech Republic, and joining me is Tommy Palm. He is the co-founder and CEO of Resolution Games. Welcome, Tommy.
Thank you.
What does Resolution Games do?
We are a games company focused on what we call visual computing. So we primarily do VR games and AR games.
You've been creating games since the Commodore 64. What are some of the titles you've created?
Well, back then, it was just me and our CTO that was doing it on kind of hobby basis. We did a famous game like Cowboy 2, and it was just for our friends. But since then, I started professionally with video games back in the late 90s. And I think we're up to about 50 titles or so that me and many of them, Martin has been a part of that too. But the most famous games were when King acquired my last company. And we worked there with titles like Bubble Witch Saga and Candy Crush Saga.
Yeah, who hasn't heard of Candy Crush? But another one that people have also heard of is Angry Birds. In fact, Resolution has teamed up with Rovio Entertainment to release a new Angry Birds game that incorporates mixed reality. Tell us about Slingshot.
So we started to talk to Rovio in I think it was December last year or Slush. They have a big tech conference in Finland. We're in Sweden, so it's very close. And we said we'd love to do something with them. And there's this new platform, the Magic Leap 1, where you have glasses on and you will see your real world, but you can overlay virtual objects. So we set out to do a version of Angry Birds there called Angry Birds First Person Slingshot.
Explain the technology that's underneath Angry Birds FPS and Magic Leap. I mean, what makes this so spatial?
Well, I don't actually think I can explain the hardware part of it. I'm a software engineer myself, but it allows us to add virtual objects to the world, and we get planes that we can place them on. So the hardware would recognize if you have a table or if you have a sofa, even walls and person coming into that space, and it will know where in the 3D space they are. So when you're playing Angry Birds, you can shoot your birds, and you will see it hit the sofa and fall down behind it and roll over, which is a very new way of playing games, obviously.
Tell us about full spatial gameplay and light field technology. How does this enhance Angry Birds, and how will you see this in the future games?
Well, one of the things that we did here was that we made sure that the game, a lot of levels you have to walk around to another side and kind of find a good angle to shoot in from. So you actually physically have to move in the world. So it's, people have been talking about 3D games since the 90s, but it's been 3D games on two-dimensional screens. But this is actually 3D in your environment. So you can go in close and have a look and see where a good angle to make these structures collapse. So that's something very new. This is the first time we worked on it as a studio, and I think this is one of the first games ever released for the Magic Leap 1 platform.
Are there business and industrial applications for these technologies today?
The Microsoft Hololens is a very similar platform, and that's been out for a year and a half, I think, or maybe even 2 years. So I think there's more software for that one. It's a little bit more limited when it comes to input. So with the Magic Leap 1, you have a full, very precise controller that is positioned. So we know exactly if you're bringing it closer to your face or further away. That's not available for the HoloLens. So from a gameplay point of view, you can do a little bit more complex things for the Magic Leap 1.
What technology challenge, when overcome, will usher in the next generation of mixed reality games and applications?
So one of the big things that we are very excited about as a game studio is the Oculus Quest that is coming early next year, which is very similar to the Oculus Rift, but it doesn't require a PC or setting up cameras looking at you. This has the cameras built into the platform instead, and it's everything you need in order to play VR games. So I think that's going to be very important for this field of visual computing, as it's going to be a quite low price point, very accessible, and still have all of these very fantastic things that VR will give you, like the sense of presence and an ability to create new worlds you can check out.
Do you think that that's going to help the adoption rate? I mean, to your point, it's going to be very affordable, and that's been a big issue in the space of VR and AR and XR is getting people to actually use the technology. Do you think this is going to be a pivoting point?
Yes, I do. I think on the hardware side, this is the first time when a platform is good enough to really fulfill the needs of kind of mass market. But then the big challenge comes from us software developers. Now we need software. The hardware in itself is useless. You know, you need great educational apps. You need productivity apps and games, of course, and that's where we come in.
Are enough developers creating for this type of technology, or is there a need for more?
Well, that's a very good question. I think these are new worlds that need to be created, and it takes a long time to populate them. So one of the things that I think is going to be very important is user-generated content. So getting tools to users so they can help populating new worlds. So in a way, I think that there is going to be many creators and developers needed to fulfill the needs.
Tommy Palm, CEO and co-founder of Resolution Games. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk about your work. If somebody wants to connect with you, maybe they want to find out more about what you do, how can they do that?
I'm on Twitter. I'm active there as Tommy Palm. You can search for me there.
All right. Thanks again, Tommy. And if you guys want to find more of my interviews, you can do that right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or go to my website, tonyahall.net. I've got links to all my social sites. Thanks for watching.